Hello, my name's Matt. I'm from Indianapolis. People need to know, if you turn over the bucks, they really think they're winning and going to win this election. So we need not to let up at all. We've got to really push this to the end.
It's Thursday, October 22nd, just 12 days from the election. And we know we're excited to see the Borat sequel, too. Today is Military Day on Vote for America, and we'll be talking with the Lincoln Project's own Fred Wellman, Rachel Vindman, and a woman who tirelessly advocates for military families. And now our host, Lincoln Project co-founder Jennifer Horn.
And welcome to Vote for America on LPTV. We are so happy that you are joining us again today. And we just want to remind you that from now until Election Day, we will be here 5 days a week at 2:30 Eastern Time, 11:30 Pacific Time. We hope that you will continue to join us and share with your friends. We want to make sure that you have all the information that you need to make your voice heard on this Election Day. And in that vein, we're going to start by sharing some important voter registration information with you this morning. Voter registration deadlines coming up in Utah, October 23rd, in Iowa and Massachusetts, October 24th. We don't want you to miss it because if you are not registered, you cannot vote. If you are not sure if you are registered, go to vote.org now, and you will be able to find your state and your records and find out whether or not you are in fact registered. We also have some new information about states where voting has opened and begun. We know that all 50 states at this point has some sort of either absentee or mail-in voting that is open at this point. The beautiful state of New York has in-person early voting starting on October 24th, and we don't want you to miss that. So share the information with your friends around the country. Make sure the folks you know who have not gotten registered and trying to figure out when they're going to vote, that they have the information that they need as well. And as always, it's my great pleasure to welcome my co-host. She's one of the founders of the Marin Group, and as I always say, Lincoln Project's resident independent voter, Lisa. Lisa Senecal. Great to have you, Lisa.
Hi, Jennifer. It's great to be here as always.
It's always good to have you here.
I'm sorry, there we go, stepping on each other.
Well, you know what? Here, and people should understand what this is. It's not that we're stepping on each other or we're not listening. It's because of the way this all works, sometimes there's a delay. And we're just not always sure if the other person has finished their sentence yet or not. But as always, Lisa, I'm interested to know what you're thinking about this morning.
Yeah, so what I am thinking about is a video that went viral yesterday, and it's actually a few years old, but seems to have missed the attention of most of us until it was posted on Twitter yesterday. And it's a video of Joe Biden and a family who lost their dad in the Parkland shooting. So I wanted to go ahead and share that with you.
Who are the parents?
Yeah. I'm the wife. I'm Chris Hudson's wife.
I wanted to.
This is Chris's
I'm
son.
his son.
Well, how are you? Good. Thank you for hugging me. You okay? You okay? You'll be okay. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. I promise. Okay, I promise.
So that young man hugging Joe Biden was Corey Dixon, and he lost his dad, Chris Dixon, in the Parkland shooting. And I think why that has struck such a chord with the American people is that we are so starved for a leader who is capable of expressing real positive human emotion and genuine empathy and caring. And the way that you see Joe Biden respond there, you can't fake that. That was an instantaneous reaction that he had to someone who was hurting. And I think that happens in part because he has been through so much and he's experienced so much loss. But it is an incredibly stark difference between the way Joe Biden responds to someone with special needs and this video that we're going to show you now of the way Donald Trump has responded.
A couple of good paragraphs. It's talking about northern New Jersey draws the prober's eye, written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
So, Jennifer, that's a pretty amazing contrast that we see right there. Oh, and I think we have momentarily lost Jennifer. I'm sure we're going to fix that technical difficulty and have her right back again. Do we have Jennifer back? I can hear her. There she is. So, okay. So, so Jennifer, you've seen both of these videos, both the Trump video where he is mocking. Yeah. So I just love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
So it looks like the screen is frozen. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not right now. Can you hear me, Lisa?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so
Yes.
maybe somebody can figure out what to do about that screen. So the it's just it goes to the heart of the compare between these men, between these two leaders, to compare them as human beings, as men, as leaders, in their community, in our country.
Jennifer, you're breaking up on us. So I'm sorry. I'm sure we're going to get this fixed, and we're going to have you back very soon. But yes, I know the point that Jennifer was making was that it's an incredibly stark contrast between these two men. Donald Trump just clearly does not have the ability to have empathy for anyone, and we're seeing that play out in his response to the pandemic. This is just who he is, and the way we right the ship is by electing Joe Biden. I am going to, until we get Jennifer back with us, I'd like to. Oh, and Jennifer's back. Okay, wonderful. Jennifer, you're here with me? Great.
I hope
Welcome
I'm
back.
here. I hope I stay here. I'm here and I hope I stay
I do.
here. It's one of those days. It's a 2020 kind of day, So
It
hopefully this
certainly is.
will run a little more smoothly going forward. And all I was just saying is those two videos. It's the perfect comparison between these two men. Who they are as men, who they are as leaders, who they are just as dignified human beings. And I think that looking at those two videos side by side, it just kind of reminds us in our hearts that why it is that Donald Trump is so wrong for America. You don't even have to go through the whole long list of issues and problems and and little to large. You just look at those two videos side by side and this is wrong and this is right and this is what we want. So I'm so glad that you brought those videos to us today, Lisa. And hopefully our technical problems are resolved and we will be able to move on now to our first guest, who we're very happy to have with us today. I've been looking forward to talking to her. She's the wife of a U.S. Army infantryman who was severely injured in an IED blast in Iraq in 2008. It spurred her on to participate in the creation of the Congressional Caucus of Military Caregivers. Please welcome, very happy to have with us, Blair Hughes. Blair, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Jennifer.
I'm so glad that you're with us today. And I have to start by telling you, Blair, I'm so grateful for your husband's service. I know that everybody watching today is so grateful, and I'm so sorry for the difficulties and the injuries that he's faced, and just so impressed by the strength and resilience that you both show under very difficult circumstances. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I'll make sure that I tell him that you said so.
So, thank you. So let's talk a little bit, Blair. I can't imagine what it is like to be the spouse of a member of the military in this moment in time, when the commander in chief, it is drilled into our troops that they serve the commander in chief, that he is their leader, and to learn the kinds of things that we have learned recently about this president, his his diminishing of their service and what they provide, his demeaning language that he has directed toward them, losers and idiots and stupid. I can't imagine what that's like for you as the spouse of somebody who serves. What did you think? How did you feel when you first heard that?
When the Atlantic story came out, it wasn't surprising because we've heard this president say those things about people with our own ears. We've heard him call John McCain a loser. We've heard him call generals in speeches babies. So it wasn't too much of a stretch to actually think that he probably did say all of the things that they said. How I felt, you asked. I think I can only say how would you feel if the person that you are most proud of in the entire world, someone who had integrity and was selfless and always did the right thing, never stopped at the opportunity to help someone, if the President of the United States said to you, why do they do it? What's in it for them? And then called them a loser.
Yeah,
There really aren't words to describe the feeling that leaves you with, and the disgust, I think.
well, and just as American citizens, we hear him speak that way and think, how can he possibly to have the President of the United States so devalue the service of those who are willing to truly make the ultimate sacrifice? I think is heartbreaking for any American. I can't imagine what it feels like for you. I hear him say that, and I think this man is clearly unfit for office. But unfit for office probably holds a whole different level of meaning for you as a military spouse. What is it about the president, and big or small? When you say he's unfit for office, what does that mean to you?
I think that that's the problem. There are a lot of big reasons, and there are a lot of small reasons, and they fill up the basket, and we're overflowing right now. And some of those reasons are, um, back in January, which seems like so long ago, right, for everybody, there was a rocket strike on a base in Iraq, and several service members ended up with traumatic brain injuries. And at first, the news came out, and there were a few, and then it was 11, and then it was 34, and now it's well over 100. The president came out and said, "Don't worry, it's just headaches. It's not a big deal." Um, and frankly, it is a big deal because traumatic brain injury is the signature injury of the wars that we've been fighting for so long. 350,000 troops have traumatic brain injuries to some degree. And for the president of the United States to stand on a podium and say uh, that it was no big deal when we have been fighting to change military culture about what it means to have a traumatic brain injury and how serious
Right.
it is. Um, that was bad enough, but the fact that he wouldn't come out and apologize for and correct the wrong and educate the public and use it as an opportunity. Instead, he was just dismissive, or just frankly not knowledgeable about what a traumatic brain injury is. And to be the commander in chief, the person who leads our loved ones and sends them into harm's way, to not understand that is dangerous and irresponsible.
It's a terrible thing, especially to have a president who can't acknowledge when he's made a mistake, especially to this degree. And to your point about 350,000 of our troops, currently diagnosed with some sort of TBI, and we know that that is contributing to the increase in suicide among our troops. It's a tragic circumstance, and to have so little leadership from the White House on these issues, I can't imagine what it's like for families that are dealing with this on a regular basis. I know that your experience and the experience that your husband has had has inspired you to reach out and try to help others, and to try to make it a little bit better world for people that are suffering as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about the nonprofit that you started?
Yeah, so thank you so much for asking me about that. It's very close to my heart. And I was especially inspired just by the video that Lisa played earlier, because my nonprofit is actually for military children and their special education. There are an estimated 400,000 military kids with special needs. And although a lot of organizations kind of touch in that space, there's no one organization dedicated to special education for military children. And frankly, it's a gap that we need to fix. I have 5 kids, and 2 of them have autism. And you can imagine special education is difficult for anyone to navigate, but for a military family, it's even harder because every time you move, you have to restart and rebuild that relationship with the school and work on their individual education plan. So it's just taking off, and I hope that we have a lot more to tell you soon.
Well, let's tell our listeners then where they can find you online. You're just starting. Let's tell them where they can find you.
Well, right now you can find me on Twitter at Blair
Perfect.
Lorelei, and you can always send me a message, and I can let you know from there.
That's terrific. I have 5 kids as well, Blair. I know what that's a house full of, I used to call it a cacophony of joy. It is noisy, but it is a wonderful thing. And I'm so impressed by what you're doing. And please do give our very best wishes to your husband as well. Continue on. You should know that no matter what you hear from the President of the United States, the American people are with you and your husband and everyone who serves. They always are. And with all due respect, a buffoon like Donald Trump is never going to change that. So thank you so much for your service and for your service as a military spouse. I hope we get to talk to you again. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks. Bye, Lisa. Bye, Jennifer.
Thank you so
Bye,
much,
Blair.
Blair. So that was just. Can you imagine that, Lisa? 5 children, special needs children, a husband in the military, a husband who has been injured in the military. I cannot imagine how full her plate is on any given day. And then she's out there reaching out into the community, trying to help others as well.
Right. And at the same time, having the president layer on top of that, the horrible things that he's had to say about our military members. And I was really struck when she read the Atlantic article that it wasn't difficult to believe that Donald
Right.
Trump had said these things because it was so in keeping with his character and the other things that he had said. So, I know that he
Right.
has denied ever saying them, but, come on. He's thought that people in the military were suckers ever since he started dodging the draft during Vietnam. And, he doesn't understand why anyone would voluntarily serve our country. And that's not something that you're ever going to be able to explain the value and importance of that to Donald Trump.
Right. Right. And I don't think, we all experience the pain or the burden or the embarrassment of Donald Trump on a daily basis. But I really have to imagine that it is magnified 100% if you are a member or a family member of someone who serves in the military. Just knowing what that means, what it is to volunteer to join, to want to give that service. And I just think it's too easy to forget that even if somebody never sees, the field of battle, when they join, they are saying, I am willing to trade my life for your life. I'm willing to sacrifice my life for the good of our country. And so to hear our president talk about the military the way that he does, I find it intolerable. I cannot imagine what it must feel like for Blair Hughes and others in her position.
No, I can't either. And that she has found a way to still hang on to so much positivity
Right.
and put herself out there to be doing good stuff to help her community is really wonderful. Which brings me to
Right.
something that we have been asking all of you to do to help inspire your community. So far, more than 42 million Americans have already cast their ballots, either by mail, drop boxes, or in-person early voting. And we've been asking you to send us pictures of your voting experience with the hashtag Vote for America Selfie. And you have been coming through in a big way. So please do keep those coming, and we will feature you in our fantastic grid here. We also want to highlight folks occasionally who touch us in a special way. And I wanted to call out Natalie today, who wrote, "So proud to be blue, voting blue for the first time in my life, that I bought myself a pin to wear every day until Election Day." I thought that was wonderful. It's so great to see people who are reconsidering their 2016 vote, and they are really making a difference for us. So we love to have those little extra messages that you put in with your selfie to tell us a little bit about yourself. It's a glimpse into all the wonderful people who are out there all pulling together to elect Joe Biden. So thank you very much, and please keep those coming. We are going to take a quick break, and when we return, we are going to have an interview with Rachel Vindman.
My name is Vic. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. I'm an Army veteran and spent 28 years working as a civil servant within the Department of Defense in places like Bahrain, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, Afghanistan. I voted for the first time for president in 1980 when I cast my vote for Ronald Reagan. I voted Republican in every presidential election after that until 2016, when the Republican Party and I had needed to part ways. I could no longer stand by a party that demonized the poor, sought out race baiting comments, and morally no longer represented my worldview. Ronald Reagan won 2 landslide presidential elections by bringing in as many people to the Republican Party as possible. Donald Trump is trying to win re-election again by prohibiting as many people as possible from voting and disenfranchising millions of Americans in direct violation of the Constitution. For that reason, I'm a Lincoln voter, and I will not be voting for Donald Trump in 2020.
Donald Trump is playing pretend again, saying he's the one to take on China. They can't wait. They know who Donald Trump is. Weak, corrupt, ridiculed. China beats him every time. No matter what he says, China's got his number.
Trump even begged Chinese leader Xi to help him win re-election, like a dog.
Trade negotiations? China won. Trump's tariffs, they laughed as Trump hit American families with higher taxes. Trump's trade war, farms and small businesses went bankrupt. China's military, expanding without American leadership in the region. President Xi, Trump rolls over for China's president every time. Is it Ivanka's secret deals in China? Is it the $250 million debt Trump owed the Bank of China? It doesn't matter, because when it comes to Trump, China can't lose. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Welcome back to LPTV and Vote for America. Our next guest, Rachel Vindman, and her family have endured unimaginable difficulties, largely brought on by the president attacking her husband, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vinman, for no reason other than he showed courage and integrity and told the truth when he was testifying before Congress. Rachel clearly has the same courage and integrity that her husband possesses, because she has become public with her story as well. And we wanted to go ahead and share a video that she made with the Lincoln Project and Vote Vet.
There's one call no military spouse ever wants to get. And for me, that call came in October 2004 when I heard a voice telling me Alex had been injured by a roadside bomb.
The last time you saw me was here. Dad, do not worry. I will be fine for telling the truth.
The first time I felt threatened was just after Alex's testimony.
With Colonel Vinman, I'm not going to focus or comment on a former junior employee.
Well, I'm not happy with it. Well, you'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens.
The most powerful man in the world came after our family, but what happened to us can happen to anyone. We received thousands of letters of support. America is so much better than Donald Trump, but he can cost this nation so much more with 4 more years.
This is America. This is the country I've served and defended. Here, right matters.
Vote Vets and the Lincoln Project are responsible for the content of this advertising.
Rachel Vindman, welcome to Vote for America.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it is such an honor to have you here. And before we go any further, I want to thank you and your husband and your entire family. because it has been your whole family who's been put through a tremendous amount because of the conduct of the president. And so that's where I'd like to start. Can you talk to us some about what this has been like for your family since the president decided to publicly target your husband for no reason other than he told the truth?
Sure. Well, it's been, pretty scary at times. It's been scary, for our personal safety. I think that was obviously the worst part for sure. We have a young daughter, and we were after he testified, we received letters and packages to our house, and realized that it was possible to find us, maybe not easy, but definitely possible. And it was, very disconcerting. On another level, it was scary when his career was, clearly at an end, and we're in the middle of the largest, the biggest global financial turndown since the Great Depression. And Alex had to figure out what he was going to do. I know people might have thought that it was just easy, that everyone was offering to help, but that was not the case. And he really had to hustle and, move up his plan to get out of the military, by many years. We did not have a plan to do this. So on a couple different levels, it was scary, and, we're still working through it, to be honest.
I'm so sorry. Your personal loss and his loss of his career is obviously tremendous. It's also a loss for the United States to no longer have someone like your husband serving. He was such a voice of integrity during those hearings, and that we've lost someone like him because of Donald Trump is just another of the very many areas of loss that we have experienced because of him. So, can you tell me? You said that you've received obviously not fantastic things in the mail, and I'm sure communications, but you've also been receiving support. Can you talk to me about some of the positive messages that you've been receiving from folks out there?
Of course, I'd love to. I haven't talked about this enough in the media I've done. And so I would just like to say we have received thousands of letters of support. It's been overwhelming and amazing. It's, I would say to everyone who wrote a letter, it's been a little bit more challenging to respond to the physical mail that we received. But Alex and I both have read every single word. We've cried many tears from just the great outpouring of love and support. And I would say if there's one thing that really rings true when we read these letters, there's a lot of people who share their own immigrant story, but the overwhelming majority of people I've come to understand, are really craving moral courage in our country, in our leadership. They're tired of this. And they took the time to write beautiful, beautiful letters. They have buoyed us in the hard times, and just really emphasized and make, the importance of what Alex did and what it stood for. And it's meant everything to our family. So thanks to you for allowing me to thank everyone in such a public way. And then, of course, I've received a lot of support from my military spouse, brothers and sisters. We're often in the background, and we're happy to be. That's fine. But they know what we're going through, and I think they understand it on a different level, even if they aren't necessarily, if they're not supporters of Joe Biden, but they understand the sacrifice that we've made as a military family, and can at least identify with how difficult it's been for his career to end on such short notice.
You have a really unique perspective, having been a direct target of the president, but there's so many people around the country who feel harmed by by the actions that he's taken and truly have been harmed either through the loss of a family member or the economic devastation that we're feeling.
Sure.
What would you say to Americans out there who are trying to make that final decision about how they're going to vote this election, and sort of the vision of what you see the country could be if we are able to make Trump a one-term president?
Well, I've lived in countries where it's an authoritarian state. You might be on the street and you might visit, and you wouldn't really think these are people who are living under great oppression. And they're not. They're able to travel abroad. They, are able to buy foreign products. The life itself might not look much different in downtown Moscow as it does in any major city. But I worked at a Russian kindergarten, and my colleagues were afraid to say things. Not just, even the school building, or the building where we had the school, but they were afraid that someone would hear. And this is the life they live with. These are not people who necessarily, they were young. They might not have even lived in the Soviet Union. But they know that by saying something, they and their family could be harmed. We are close to that in the United States. I don't want to be a crazy alarmist, but we are. I know that because, every day Donald Trump takes steps to limit the power of the regular people and increase his power. And, removing experts. One of the reasons why Alex reported the call when maybe others didn't is Alex is a subject matter expert. He has spent many years education and experience-wise gaining experience in this area of the world. And he knew what the president was asking and how it would be perceived by both the Ukrainian President Zelensky and our enemies, should they be listening. So other people, unfortunately, there's not a lot of those people around Donald Trump anymore. There were at first, but there's a reason why they don't work there now, because they told him things he didn't want to hear. And we see evidence of that every day with reporters, with anyone who challenges him, with anyone who makes him think or defend himself. He just gets rid of them because he does not want to explain what he's doing. And so to people who are undecided, I am sorry if Joe Biden is not the candidate that you want. This is how our system works. But we have a binary choice in less than 2 weeks. Donald Trump or Joe Biden. A narcissist with authoritarian ideas and desires, or a decent man who is going to lead with integrity. And that's the choice. And I think you would have to say, who would you rather come for dinner? I know the Republicans now and the conservatives love to say, well, we elect a person, not a policy. We, are for ideas, not ideology. Fine. I'm old enough to remember when you didn't say the same thing about Bill Clinton, but whatever. I get it on some level, but this is so, so important. With 4 more years, he will not serve the American people. He will continue to serve Donald Trump. He will do so unimpeded. We will not be the same country in 4 years. We will be an authoritarian country, in my opinion. I really think that's how it's going to end up.
Rachel, thank you for not allowing the president to silence you. And please pass our gratitude on to your husband for being unwilling to be silenced while he was serving. It's so incredibly important, the example that you've set. And I'm sorry there aren't more good people left in the administration, but thank you so much for the example that you're setting for all of us. It's been wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you so much. And I would just say there might not be a lot of people left in the administration, but there are amazing people left in the United States of America. And we're going to change this. We have the power to change it. That's our system. It's beautiful and it's happening. Everyone needs to vote, and that's all we have to do. We still hold the power. Thank you so much for having
Thank
me. I
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
What a remarkable woman, Jennifer. She's really amazing.
I didn't think about this until the show started to unfold, having these two military spouses on today, one right after the other. It's such a it's kind of like a sneak peek behind the curtain of how of what's really happening, what these military families, how it works. You think, how do they do it with one spouse or the other? Is the one out there in the field who's having to be deployed, having to serve and get move around the country and move around the world, some of them having that spouse at home taking care of the family, to be able to kind of see in each of these women. And it's the same in when the husband is the military spouse, their dedication to our country is as equal as the one who serves. Their sacrifice is just as large. They're giving up just as much. They are putting themselves out there just as much. They're taking, it's in a different way, but they're making the same sacrifice when they sign on the dotted line as well. So I'm just so glad that we had these two wives here today. I thought they were terrific, inspirational, honestly, to think about how they live and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, they're both just remarkable human beings, doing such important things, and obviously both of their husbands have as well. But the impact that they're making in their communities is astounding. And I will end my comments by echoing Rachel Vindman's, and just get out there, everyone, and vote. It is in our hands.
Right. That's what this show is all about. We want to make sure that people have all the information that they need, that they hear all the real life stories of people who've been impacted by this presidency, and that so they can go out there informed and armed and ready to go. And to that degree, to that effort, I'm really happy to welcome our next guest to the show. He's been with us, I think, at least once before. He is the top dog in the Veterans Coalition here at the Lincoln Project. He's one of our senior advisors. He's also a U.S. Army vet who did 4 combat tours in Iraq, which I find unbelievable. Fred Wellman, so great to have you here. I'm so glad that, and people should know, Fred, you and I know each other. We are buddies. I'm really glad that you are here today to join the conversation. Thanks for coming.
It's great to be back. I really appreciate it. It's great to be back as always.
It's great to be back. I am so grateful for your service in the Army, but let me just say, hoorah, Marines. Let's just...
I knew you couldn't resist. You always have to get, I'm a son of a Marine. So my dad's greatest disappointment is I joined the Army.
I am the mom of a Marine, which
I know.
I can't let it pass. It's really
just weird. You're so proud of
Fred.
it. It's just weird.
It's so weird. Well, do you remember what John McCain used to say about serving in the Navy? The Marines, the Navy. Oh gosh, that he would call the Marines the men's department of the Navy, I think is what he used to say.
Exactly.
And
the Navy's the Uber.
Right. So, yeah, Fred, there's just so much going on out there. We're just 12 or 13 days away from the election. You have been involved in so much of the really important work that we do at the Lincoln Project. People see the ads, which are powerful, and we're so glad that they're part of it. But on the political side, the building the coalitions, bringing people together who can become voices for the message and get them out there. Let's just talk a little bit about all the folks that you've been working with at the Veterans Coalition, and just kind of in general, how are they feeling? It seems like it has gotten even worse for those in our military since the Lincoln Project started. Everything we've learned about what the president has said off the record, behind the scenes, everything we've learned about that he knew about bounties on the heads of our military and did. So what is the demeanor? How is the spirit of the folks in the coalition and beyond?
We've got a great coalition. I'm glad you asked about them. I hadn't had a chance to talk enough about our Veterans Leadership Coalition. When I joined, Steve Schmidt called me up and said, "You're going to join us." I'm like, "Okay." And you don't really get a chance to say no to Steve Schmidt as it comes out. So here we are. But one of the things, Steve and I were talking about in those early days was the idea of creating a list of, some generals and some sergeant majors and senior folks, much like the campaigns do. But what I really wanted to do was create a coalition that was even beyond just veterans. It's almost wrong to call it the Veterans Coalition. I mean, we wanted to create a coalition of truly the breadth of the military and veteran community. And frankly, you already spoke to Blair Hughes as one of the folks I recruited for this. I wanted to create a group with all ranks, all experiences in the military. I wanted to have Gold Star moms, Blue Star moms. I wanted to have a caregiver like Blair. I wanted to have, a young man who served briefly and got out because of his disabilities. All that breadth of experience. And we've built a great group, and they've been incredibly supportive. I think if you've watched any of our work, our Facebook Lives or appearances here on LPTV, you've seen many of our members who have been incredibly generous with their time and their patriotism. But I think, we have a meeting every week, we talk, and they're nervous. Everyone's nervous. I think we've all got a little bit of a shell shock going from, 4 years ago. But there's hope.
Right.
We have dedicated ourselves to telling the story, trying to create the picture for the average American and for GOP voters as well of what the truth is about Donald Trump's regime, if you will, and the truth about how he's treated our military. And I think, Jennifer, you and I have talked about it before. It's not what he says, right? Just like you said, since the time I've joined this, we've had the Russian bounty story. We've had the discovery that their machinations to destroy the Postal Service were actually delaying medicine for veterans. We heard thousands of stories of seniors and Vietnam veterans and World War II veterans waiting weeks for their medicine because of Donald Trump's machinations to slow down the vote. We discovered that he held an event for Gold Star families, the best of us of our Gold Star families, those who have lost family members in service. And Donald Trump holds an event maskless with no social distancing after he's been exposed to COVID. So the things that he does, it's just like we always say, right? You can say one thing, you can talk about how much you love him, you can hug the flag all freaking day. But in the end, the military and the military families know the truth because they see the actions of what he's doing. They see the moldy housing. So, it's been quite a ride. And here we are with 12 days out. And I think that my job right now is to keep hammering that point that the things that Donald Trump is telling you that he's the commander in chief are not just true. It's just not true.
Well, and and listening to you talk about that a little bit reminds me of something that we talked about with Blair Hughes just a few minutes ago. The idea of fitness to serve, unfit to serve, and that's kind of a sort of a special phrase in the military. It's he's the commander in chief. This is a person who's the commander in chief, and when you talk about the the story about bounties on the heads of our military, and we know that the president knew and did nothing about it. And as I was listening to you say it, I thought all those Americans who lost their lives to coronavirus, the president knew and he did nothing about it. And it just we're starting to really understand what it means that we have a commander in chief who is unfit to serve. I can't.
Let's put that perspective.
Right.
Yeah, the perspective I use, especially with the coronavirus. I mean, we have 220,000 dead, right? That is, and you'll appreciate this, Jennifer, more than anyone. That's the number. That's greater than the number of the active duty United States Marine Corps and the active duty 101st Airborne Division. We've lost in lives to the coronavirus. So the chief of the United States military, if military battle, if this is a military war, that would be the single greatest loss in American history. And Donald Trump has orchestrated that with his failure to lead and his inability to actually provide leadership in a crucial time for our country. And it plays out. And we're not immune from that. I believe the VA is seeing a huge spike in coronavirus cases. Their hospitals are getting full once again. We've had several thousand deaths within. We've lost hundreds of actual VA caregivers and medical providers. And so it's a really tenuous time. And where's the president? Yelling at Leslie Stahl on TV, holding his ridiculous MAGA rallies, wasting our time instead of leading our country. And it's just, it has to end. It has to end. He is unfit.
Well,
we cannot give him 4 more years.
And speaking of his rallies, he always stands in front of the microphone and says he's been the better a better president for the military than any other president. He does more for the vets, you know, because he's done more for everybody, right, than anybody's ever done before,
Right.
if you listen to him. But I
Right.
know that one of your pet peeves with this president, one of your key issues, is that in fact he hasn't. And one of the things
No.
I've heard, you know, you and I have chatted about before together is housing for veteran
Yep.
house, military housing.
Yep. And one of the worst things I've seen, he talks a lot about how he increased the military budget, but what he did actually was, and under, frankly, with his collaborator, if you will, Secretary Esper, they diverted $7.1 billion in military construction money to his ridiculous wall on the border. And through that, we've left many military projects by this wayside. I know for a fact, daycare centers, schools, water treatment plants, motor pools, hangars, all of this construction that had a colleague of mine told me they'd been waiting for a new daycare center in Germany for 11 years, finally got into the budget, and that money got stolen to build that ridiculous wall. And so now we have our American sons and daughters. That's who the military is, right, Jennifer? And your son, right? My son and son-in-law serve. My daughter is a military spouse. Okay. And so now our sons and daughters are being asked to live in housing that's falling down. It's moldy under contractors, a failed contractor agreement. We've got the middle school at Fort Campbell literally falling down. That construction's all been diverted so Donald Trump can build his ridiculous wall instead of taking care of the military. And I think that's why you're seeing the numbers for military personnel support for the president. I mean, let's be very honest here. A Republican incumbent president should get a walk-off home run when it comes to the military vote. I mean, it shouldn't even be a case. I mean, I was Republican the entire time I served. Majority of our service members are very conservative. But instead, we have a situation where the Military Times poll showed him underwater behind Mr. Biden. And we showed a recent poll from, I think, NBC said that military households, it's a 50-50 split. And that is because our military families like Blair and Rachel have had to pay the price.
And that's unheard of, really, for people to
It is.
understand the magnitude of what you're talking about, that to see military voters split even, you know,
Right.
and to your point, in some cases, going for the Democratic candidate. So, Fred, let's assume that we've got a couple of undecided members of the military or veterans out there listening to us today. Let's close things out with, what would you say to those folks who are saying, you know, I get it, I hear you. I've always voted for Donald Trump because I've always voted Republican because I'm a veteran, because my family is in the military. You know, what do you say to those folks today?
Let's put Donald Trump behind us. Let's focus on Mr. Biden, the Vice President Biden, who I have met many times. I've even criticized Mr. Biden. You can dig up the tweets. I was a Republican,
Sure.
right? But here's what I do know about Vice President Biden and Dr. Jill Biden, his wife. Joe Biden will be the first president since Eisenhower to know the feeling of hugging his child and sending him to war. He is a member of our military community. He is a Blue Star dad. His son, Bo, went and served in Iraq. Okay. And so this is a family that knows that feeling of sitting up at night and wondering if the casualty assistance officer is going to knock on your door. They know the feeling of the fear you have knowing your child's in harm's way, like I did with my son-in-law being in Iraq as well in 2012. And so that's a very unique perspective they bring to the White House as commander in chief. And that's before we talk about Dr. Biden's wonderful program called Joining Forces that she ran with Mrs. Obama and plans to bring back, a program that actually did huge impact on the military, bringing jobs for our veterans, allowing spouses to take their laws and their law degrees, their licenses, their bar exams, and make them portable across states. So when that military spouse has to PCS or move, as we call it in the military, she's able to get a job as soon as she arrives instead of having to take the bar over again. That's incredibly consequential work that's been done for our families and done for our military. So I think you can sleep well at night casting a vote for a Democrat, even if you're a Republican, and know that this Democrat, this president, his wife, understand our lives.
Right.
And will put us first. And it won't be symbolic. It won't be just, hugging the flag and giving you a pay raise. They'll do that too. But I do believe in my heart, you can comfortably vote for Joe Biden and say, this is a man that understands the military community and respects it and will treat it with the consequence. He will never sit at night. He will never send us to war. He will never launch a raid for cake at Mar-a-Lago with Steve Bannon and ends up getting a SEAL killed like Donald Trump did in his very first consequential act as president, commander in chief. People talk a lot about how Joe Biden resisted the Osama bin Laden raid. Do you know why? Because I want civilian leaders and military leaders I want someone to say, wait a minute, are we going to get our men killed on this mission? You see, we don't do suicide missions in the United States military. I want civilian leadership that does question my generals and says, wait a minute, are we going to get our sons and daughters killed doing this mission? And so that's why whenever the Republicans try to attack, Joe Biden because, he was against the raid, I'm like, that's not a very good attack because, I do want leadership that questions the mission and says, is the value of this mission worth it? I want a president who takes my life, should I say, my son's life, as seriously as I do. And I do believe in my heart that Joe Biden is the guy.
Boy, I got to tell you, Fred, that's a powerful message. And Joe Biden is a member of the military family. He's one of us.
Yep.
That was I'm not going to say anything. I'm not even going to add to it. That was powerful. That was perfect. And I'm not. But let's finish out by just reminding them of how important it is to vote. Fred has already voted. He's part of our hashtag Vote for America selfie campaign.
I did.
On Twitter.
There I am.
And so
my glamour shot.
Right.
I had to do the high angle.
Well, I'm proud of you for voting and for voting with your mask on. Because when I did my selfie, I stood far away so that my husband could take a picture of me and I could take my mask off. So, but
I know I look good in the mask. I think it makes me look better. Covers half my face. It's an improvement.
I wasn't saying that. But you're sending two great messages at one time. Be safe.
That's right.
And vote.
Agree.
Nobody understands the value and the importance of voting better than those who serve in the United States military. Yep. Fred,
I just shot
awesome
a video.
Having you.
Yeah. Thank you. And I just want to I'll get a hash. I just shot a video. There's an organization called Count Every Hero. And I just shot a video for them because that group is urging, they asked me to help them, that every military ballot gets counted. We want to ensure that those servicemen are sons and daughters who are mailing their votes in. It's all absentee balloting. Hundreds of thousands of votes are coming in from around the world right now from our military families and the service members. And we want to make sure that every one of those absentee ballots gets counted too. Nobody should declare victory till every vote gets counted. So thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Fred, you're so right. And the problems that Donald Trump was causing intentionally with our postal service, seeding doubt about the integrity of mail-in votes and absentee ballots, it hurts the military directly as much as anybody else. So I'm so glad you're part of that as well. So happy to have you here today, Fred. I hope we have you back again. This is terrific. Have a great day.
I hope so too. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. So, Lisa, I got to tell you, Fred he's one of the good guys for sure. And I really enjoy working with him here at the Lincoln Project. Out of that entire conversation with him, the thing that really kind of hit me, again, it's these things that we know in our heads and already, but then when you hear someone else say it in the context of their experience and their background and who they are, when I hear Fred Wellman say that he wants to tell the military voters, undecided military and veteran voters, Joe Biden is one of us. He's a member of the military family. That really got me. That really hit me. My son did not serve in battle when he was in the Marines, thank God. But every single time that I kissed him on the cheek to send him back to camp, to wherever he was at that time, I cried because I knew he was leaving and I knew what was possible. So it's really moving for me to put Joe Biden in that context.
I am not the parent of a member of the military, but I certainly, as a mom, know what that's like to be worried about a child who could be in harm's way, and to know that the person who could send them in harm's way has a complete disregard for their lives and the importance of their service. I cannot imagine how devastating and terrifying that is for military families. So I'm really, really glad you had Fred on today. He was wonderful. We are going to take another quick break, and then we are going to be right back on the other side with your audience question.
Leadership is not just about sitting in the pilot seat. It's about knowing what you're doing and taking responsibility for it, being prepared, ready and able to handle anything that might come your way. I've been flying over this country for 53 years. 53 years of flights you'd never heard about, and one that you've heard everything about.
They're calling it Miracle on the Hudson. Everyone on board, 155 people, make it out alive.
My whole life prepared me for that moment. From my father, a naval officer in World War II, I learned the awesome responsibility of command. From my service as an Air Force officer and a fighter pilot, I knew that serving a cause greater than oneself is the highest calling. And it's in that highest calling of leadership that Donald Trump has failed us so miserably. Now it's up to us to overcome his attacks on our very democracy. Knowing nearly 250,000 Americans won't have a voice, casualties of his lethal lies and incompetence. 11 years ago, I was called to my moment. Now we are all called to this moment. When you look down at our beautiful, boundless country, you don't see political divisions. It reminds us of who we are and what we can be. That we are in control of this nation's destiny. All we have to do is vote him out.
Vote Vets and the Lincoln Project are responsible for the content of this advertising.
Welcome back to LPTV and Vote for America. We are going to wrap up today's show with a couple of audience interactions that we've had with you. The first one is a voicemail coming from Donna in Wichita, Kansas.
Hi, my name is Donna, and I live in Wichita, Kansas, home of Mike Pompeo. Yay. I do have a question about purging voter rolls. Does that happen prior to voter registration, or does it happen after you cast your vote? Can they just immediately get rid of your vote?
Jennifer, that one is all yours.
I enjoyed the Mike Pompeo. Yay.
Yay.
Mike Pompeo, who we all know is thinking that he'd like to run for president someday. And there's a voter from his home state going, oh, great, Mike Pompeo. That cracked me up. So purging the voter rolls. Purging is a word, like it's a word that kind of sounds, strong or scary or like it's a terrible thing. Every state has their own way of maintaining their voter rolls, their voter records, but they also all have their own process. They don't purge you before or after you vote or trying to hide records or anything like that. They clean it's part of maintaining their voter rolls, their voter records. So if you have not voted for a certain number of cycles, if it's been 10 years since you voted or maybe 6 years or something, then they take your record off of the voter rolls. That's all. And so you need to go back probably and register again. And it's not a nefarious thing, but it is something that this president and others in the past have used to try to create the impression of fraud. For example, this president has gone both ways with it. He's tried to suggest that they're removing people's records from the voter rolls so that you can't vote. That's not happening. And then he tries to suggest that there are millions of fraudulent records in our voter rolls that people are coming in and voting multiple times under multiple different names and IDs. Also not happening. The idea of purging the rolls is just kind of a harsh phrase of talking about how we maintain our voter records. But this is a good time to remind everybody, Lisa, go to vote.org. Vote.org. You can type it in this second, while you're still listening to us on your computer, and find out if you are actually registered or not. Most states have either passed their deadline to get registered or they're awfully close to it. So if you have any doubt at all, go to vote.org and make sure that you're registered.
That is excellent advice. Thank you, Jennifer. We're going to go to our next audience interaction. We have a tweet, and it reads, my 35th anniversary is in November. I'd originally booked a cruise, cue blowing up noises. I'm angry. When can we claim victory after the election? Are we doomed to months of hell in court? I selfishly want my family and my life back. Patricia, we all want our lives back. I completely empathize with that sentiment. We are going to know who won the election and be able to get at least on with that portion of our lives and put the election behind us as soon as all the eligible votes are counted. And in swing states, especially, that's going to take some time. So we're probably not going to know on election night unless we have a landslide victory, and you all can play a part in making sure that we have a huge win for Joe Biden. But many of the states don't allow even opening the envelopes that mail-in ballots came in until Election Day. And with the huge numbers of mail-in ballots coming in this year, it's going to take some time to process those. And we just heard Fred Wellman say in the last segment, military voters vote by mail, many of them who are overseas. And we want to make sure that every member of our military who has voted has that ballot counted and that their voice is being heard. They certainly deserve a say in who the next commander in chief is going to be. So we're going to have to be a little bit patient this year. We know that our Constitution has a guaranteed date. By the end of January, we have a sworn-in president in office, and that happens whether Donald Trump likes it or not. So we're going to know, not too long after the election, but don't expect the final result on election night. That does not mean there's fraud. It just means it takes time to count votes. So be patient. Anything you want to add to that long-winded?
You got
answer,
it.
Jennifer?
What would I add? Listen, I will breathe easy on January 20th, when Joe Biden is sworn in as president of the United States. Because from that moment forward, it doesn't matter what Trump says or does or leaves or doesn't leave or anything else. The Constitution guarantees us on the 20th of January, when he is sworn in, we have a new president, and that will be the beginning of a new era for our country. Hopefully of decency and trust and leadership, the kind that the American people deserve.
Yeah, I think we'll all be breathing a collective sigh of relief. I want to give a couple of reminders before we wrap up the show today. Please keep sending us messages with tweets on Twitter with the hashtag Vote for America Selfie. Keep those coming in. They've been so great. We'll keep sharing them on the show. You can also email us if you have a message longer than is going to fit into a tweet. We have our phone number. You can leave us voicemail messages. So, and you can also reach us on Facebook. So please do keep letting us know what it is you want to hear from us over the next 12 days until we wrap up voting, because we're voting already right now. We do have some voter registration deadlines I want to just throw up on the screen quickly. Please check in your state and make sure you know when your voter registration deadline is. And Jennifer gave the very good advice of going to vote.org. You can check and make sure that you are registered. Very easy to do. Double check and make sure that you have a valid registration. And we have early in-person voting happening across the country now. New York starts on Saturday, the 24th. So please get out there. No reason to wait until Election Day in all those states that already have early voting going. Get yourself on out there with your mask, sanitizer, a snack, an umbrella, everything that you possibly need in case you've got a little bit of a line to wait in, and get your ballot cast.
I'm so glad you said hand sanitizer. I keep saying hand sanitizer is the great unsung hero of stopping disease from spreading, because we talk about masks all the time. But I carry sanitizer in my purse. I have one in my pocket. I have one in my backpack all the time. Lisa, thank you so much. This has been a lot of great conversations on this show today. I want to thank our guests, Blair Hughes and Rachel Vindman and Fred Wellman. And as always, Lisa, it's so much fun to have you here with us. Thank you for being with us today as well.
Oh, it was wonderful being here. And I know everyone enjoys seeing you. And there's another opportunity to have a conversation with you tonight. LPTV on the LP YouTube channel is having a town hall at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Can warm you up for the debate. So please do tune into that. And tomorrow to talk debate and whatever it is we see happen tonight that's completely unpredictable.
That's right.
We're going to have Mike Madrid and Susan Del Percio on tomorrow to talk all things post-debate. So please join us again at 2:30 tomorrow.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much. And of course, Lisa and I will both be here tomorrow at 2:30 at our Eastern time, at our new time as well. So that's just about a wrap for us. Before we go, we had a new ad that came out from the Lincoln Project today that is just particularly personally really powerful to me, and because I'm a mom, and I just feel like I wanted to make sure that we shared it with all of you in kind of a special way today, because I suspect if it moves me the way that it does, it will be important to all of you as well. So let's share. It's a new ad that we call Men.
Our dads weren't perfect, but they did their best to raise us to be good, to be honorable, to be men of family and faith. But above all, they taught us to own up to it when we did something wrong.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
Let me go. I don't wanna be your hero.
We may have thought we were doing the right thing in 2016.
Be a big man.
But it's clear this isn't the America we voted for.
Your masquerade.
We made a mistake.
I don't wanna be a part of your parade.
So it's time to own up, to be the men our dads raised us to be, and the fathers our sons need us to be. Because they're watching us the way we watched our dads. It's our turn to set the example. Vote for change. Vote for our sons. Vote for Joe.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Message is so important. I look at this president and I think about my sons. Of my 5 children, I have 4 boys, and I think about their dad and the kind of man that he is, and how important it was to me when I got married that I chose a man in my life who could be the kind of father I would want for my children, who would set the example, who would share the message with them that strength doesn't come from being a bully. Strength doesn't come from pushing people down in the street, from calling them names, from trying to show that you can punch them out, or that I chose a man who could be the kind of father to my children, who could teach them that compassion and kindness and sincerity is how we measure strength in people. So, and then to hear Fred Wellman talk about Joe Biden sending his son off to war and the kind of military father that Joe Biden is. And we compare what we see in Joe Biden to what we see in Donald Trump. But more importantly than that, when we compare what we look for in our own lives, in the relationships that we have sought out, and as a wife and as a mother, when I think about what I look for in a husband, in a man who could be a father to my children, and now I see my sons as adults, as men, and my oldest son, who is now a father, about to become a father for the second time. And I think about the kind of man and father he is, and that he is that because of what he learned from his dad. I just feel like this is a moment as we are approaching this election for all of us, whether we are mothers or fathers or men or women or anything else, to look at this president and really question whether or not this is the kind of man we want our sons to look up to, whether or not this is the kind of man we want our sons to look at when they become fathers, because I don't think it is. And I apologize. I hate that I tear up so easily, but I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I hope that you will find that ad. It's available on YouTube under the Lincoln Project, and share it with all the moms and dads that you know out there. Thank you so much for being with us today. We are going to be back here again tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern Time. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for joining us at Vote for America on LPTV.
This is America, and it's hurting. Right now, we're getting knocked down by the very people who should be lifting us up. Our families and our neighbors are sick, and we're being lied to. They want to scare us into believing it has to be this way. It doesn't. In the past, when change was needed, we've stepped up. Now, it's time to step up again. This moment is not about Democrat or Republican. It's about being on the right side of history. We must set aside our differences, stand together, united, and ask, what can I do to help? It's time to put people ahead of politics, to put country over party. It's time to vote for America.
And this was never envisioned when we started the Lincoln Project, right? We started with an entirely different set of assumptions. We never saw a pandemic coming. 3 or 4 months into this project, COVID-19 hits. The president makes it clear he's not going to take this seriously, and he pressures Republican governors to do the same. So what happens is it hits in certain parts of the country, particularly on the coasts. And then as we go into summer, it hits the Sun Belt very, very devastatingly. And what we see then in the data shop is we start to notice that there's a correlation between the increase in infection rates in counties and the decline in Donald Trump's support numbers politically. In other words, when this became real to people in their real lives and in their communities, it was no longer avoidable. It wasn't abstract. It wasn't like Trump saying something on TMZ or kids in cages. It was not something that they saw in the news or they could easily avoid. It was happening to everybody. Everybody was sheltering in place. You're worried about your grandparents. Are the kids going to be affected? What is this thing? We don't know. Every American was affected by this.
My name is Steve. I live in Arizona. I think we shouldn't go in this direction, really. To try to analyze the president or something like that, it's a total waste of time. We need to stay on track and stay on the message, which is this is about saving the soul of the United States, and Biden is the best person to do that.